Welcome back to the Self-Care Sanctuary, the place where healing meets connection and self-love sets the foundation for every relationship you build. I'm your host, Sharron Terry, and today we are going to be talking about a word that is often misunderstood, and that is intimacy. When most people hear intimacy, they think of physical closeness or sexual connection. But intimacy is so much more than that. It's emotional safety, shared experiences, deep trust, and feeling truly known by your partner. In this episode, we're going to explore the different types of intimacy that exist in relationships, why intimacy can fade over time, and how to rekindle the flame. And then we're going to talk about practical, everyday ways to deepen connection with your partner. And before we get right into it, again, welcome and thank you for listening to the Self Care Sanctuary podcast. Like my channel, which is Purple Rain Counseling on YouTube. You can follow me there. Also, if anything resonates with you, or if you feel that this can benefit someone else, please feel free to like and share. Now, let's get right into it. So, whether your relationship feels like it's stuck or simply ready to grow into an even deeper and more meaningful episode, we're going to go ahead and give you some of those tools to help you move beyond the surface and into deeper connection. Now, let's just start with the truth. Intimacy is about closeness, but closeness takes so many different forms. And psychologists often break down intimacy into five main types. Intimacy includes emotional intimacy. Now, this is sharing your innermost thoughts, feelings, and vulnerabilities without fear of judgment. This is where you feel safe telling your partner anything. You may even find yourself saying that to your partner. Like, I just feel like I can tell you anything, like anything. That is the goal, my friends. You want to be able to have that type of vulnerability where you can really just be free to express whatever it is that is on your mind. It could be something crazy, but you feel free and safe to do that. And, you know, the John Gottman, who is a leader in couples counseling, marriage therapy, he suggested that one of the biggest indicators that a couple will break up or get divorced is a lack of emotional intimacy. He suggested that couples need to work on creating and sustaining an emotional, intimate relationship in order to stay together for a long term, in the long run. If you're in it to win it, you have to have emotional um, intimacy. And one of the ways that you can do that is just to simply make time for meaningful conversations regularly. Maybe you want to have coffee in the mornings before you get started on your day, and that may look like on Saturday mornings or when you don't have to go to work, or maybe coming home from work and you want to just set aside some time to just really connect and maybe hear about how the other, person's day went, something like that, right? Or what exciting happened? What is anything bother you today? But these are so important steps to take in order to improve your relationship. It's also important to be supportive of your partner during times of stress and to express your affection regularly. So, sometimes our partners go out into the world and they have stressful days at work, and they need to be able to come home if they want to express themselves about how stressful work is. And maybe you can give them some ideas or suggestions if they want that to get through the next day, right? Some suggestions on how to manage things a little bit better. But by making an effort to really foster this emotional intimacy, you can help create a stronger, more lasting bond. Now let's get into physical intimacy. Yes, everybody like that part because it includes sexual touch and non-sexual affection, like holding hands, cuddling, and leaning into each other during conversations. Now, let's be honest, right? One of the most important aspects of a relationship is sexual intimacy. There's just no way of getting around it. It is an important factor. And this is the part of the relationship where couples connect on a physical and emotional level. It's so important to show your partner that you love and care for them. It's also a great way to relieve stress and maintain healthy relationships. Now, when the sexual intimacy is maintained, it can also help to strengthen the bond between two people. Now, if you're having problems or when it's lacking, it can be a major source of conflict in a relationship. And if you're having problems with the sexual intimacy, it's really important to talk about what's happening, why there is an issue, and being open to trying new things together can also spice up your sex life, being willing to experiment and not being afraid to ask for what you want. But above all, it should be an enjoyable experience for both partners. That's very important. Like, it can't just be about one person or the other person just doing it just to be doing it. Sexual intimacy is really an important part of a healthy relationship, and it really should be treated as such. Now, I do want to add this caveat to that because as people progress through their lives, particularly people who start entering into their midlife, 40s, 50s, 60s, when you're in it for the long haul, you have to be having grace and compassion and empathy for one another, asking your partner, how can we navigate these life changes, you know, together, right? Understanding that for men and women, sometimes you may not be on the same page because there are hormonal changes that are happening in each individual's bodies. So, what would be a good, um, healthy place that you can meet in the middle where both people are feeling seen, heard, and satisfied? Okay. Don't let it be a source of contention, but also you want to be mindful of your partner, not selfish. And that works on both ends because if one partner is having some physical or health issues, that needs to be considered as well. And you may have to go to a doctor to see what's happening. Maybe some women can take estrogen, some men can take testosterone. There's Cialis, there's a whole Viagra, there's a whole plethora of things available. But the key is having a conversation about it and really listening to understand and not to respond to that person. Now let's move into intellectual intimacy. This is connecting through shared ideas, beliefs, and stimulating conversations. It's when you can just sit there and talk for hours upon hours and really feel energized, like you're just lighting each other's fire, and you don't feel drained afterwards. You look forward to having these conversations and hearing what's on your partner's mind, because you find this person intriguing, you find what their ideas are just fascinating. And sometimes you can work through different ideas and offer each other feedback. However, this type of intimacy does require honesty, vulnerability, and a willingness to really be seen by your partner. It's not about showboating, trying to impress the other person, or trying to one up the partner. It's about sharing, right? Your ideas and your thoughts in a safe space, like we talked about earlier, and trusting that environment, that you're not going to be ridiculed, you know, when your partner shares an idea with you. So if my partner comes to me and says, "Babe, I want to try to figure out how we can go to the moon and back." And my response should be, "Really? Well, let's figure out how we can do that." Right? It might be a challenge, but let's sit down and figure it out, right? When both partners feel free to express their true selves, it might be something so crazy. But when you have a partner that supports you, I'm telling you, you can go far. You feel like you can do anything, invincible, because you know you got somebody standing beside you, behind you, they got you covered. And it can create such a deep level of intimacy and connection. Now, I hope by now you guys are starting to connect some dots about the physical intimacy, right? And non sexual touch. Because when you have that emotional intimacy, when you have like the holding of the hands, walking together, talking together, laughing together, all those things are non sexual. But when you have those things in place, it makes the sexual intimacy on fire, fireworks, because you it's a natural thing to want that person in a sexual way when you have all of these things, because you just feel so connected. And then just by having the sexual part of it is another way that you can still further that connection. But emotional, intellectual intimacy is, and that non-sexual touch, it starts way outside of the bedroom, right? The little kisses on the forehead in the morning, or the little text messages that say, "I love you, babe," you know, "You my pookie wookie," whatever it is. You know, when they get those little messages, right, in their mind, they thinking, mm, I can't wait to get home, right? So you want to build, it's like you're building it up. Foreplay does not start 2 minutes before the sexual intimacy part. I'm just saying, for most people. You might, but moving on to the next thing. So now we're going into experiential intimacy, bonding through shared activities, going to the movies, traveling together, life experiences, working on a project, or even, you know, challenging, navigating challenging projects together, right? Challenges as a team. I'll see people on the internet and they're working on doing home improvement projects and building things together or fixing things together. All of that is building closeness. Now, you might start fussing about which nail goes where, but you're doing it together. You are learning about how each other figures out or figure out like the pieces to the puzzle. How do they rationale? How is their rationale? Right? Another way to learn more about your partner. And then there is spiritual intimacy. Now, this can be tricky for some, sharing beliefs, values, practices that connect you to something so much bigger, something outside of yourselves, whether that's faith, um, whether that's nature, meditation, or making meaning together, right? What do me and my partner want, or what do we want to, have our legacy be as a couple? What do we want to be known for as a couple? In a relationship, spiritual intimacy is that sense of soul deep connection that allows you to be fully yourself with another person and to feel loved and accepted for who you are. Now, it's that kind of closeness that it can only come from sharing your most innermost thoughts and feelings, and from knowing that you are loved and supported no matter what, right? Spiritual intimacy doesn't necessarily happen overnight. It can take time, effort, and a willingness to be vulnerable to each other. But the payoff is more than worth it. When you have spiritual intimacy in your relationship, you have a foundation of trust and mutual respect that can weather any storm. Now, the mutual respect part is definitely a key factor here because some people will say, you can't be um, together or have a strong marriage if you aren't equally yoked or if you have different belief systems. And quite honestly, that is not true, right? You have people who may practice Buddhism and then their partner may be a Christian. As long as there is a mutual respect and that there is no harm being done to your partner because of their spiritual belief, then you can walk together and you can share what your spiritual beliefs and practices are. And then also, when we're trying to build spiritual intimacy, it also doesn't mean that you are to superimpose your beliefs on to your partner, because quite honestly, sometimes we start off in a marriage believing the same things, so we think that we're on the same page. However, people grow, people evolve, people want to try out different religions or religious practices. They may gain deeper understandings about their own practice, right? Maybe you both believe in Christianity or Buddhism, or, maybe it's just so many other things, Seven-Day Adventists, whatever it is. You and your partner may even have the same belief system at the core, but there are some things within the religion or in the religious practice, spiritual practice, that you may not believe in, right? So having an open conversation about where your beliefs meet and where they divide. It doesn't mean that you two have to divide. It just means that there has to be a mutual respect, as I mentioned, understanding, a willingness to be open, and a willingness to say, hey, we're going to agree to disagree in this particular area of our relationship. But you can walk together. Now, strong relationships You know, really each partner has this belief and this blessed assurance that they can really always count on their partner no matter what happens. And that is the most priceless gift of all. Now, when I say you can always count on your partner or count on each other, we're talking about in a healthy way. I'm not talking about, any type of these intimacies that are being abused. That's a different conversation and maybe another show that we need to have. But for right now, I'm talking about a couple who is working to build deeper intimacy within their relationship. Strong relationships have a blend of all of these intimacies. And if one area is neglected for too long, the overall connection can start feeling very surface, very shallow. And quite honestly, one of the partners is going to start feeling unfulfilled. So it's a matter of coming together to see what can we do to get us back on track. If intimacy is so beautiful, then why does it sometimes, fade away and disappear? And it's quite common because life stressors, you got work, kids, finances, health challenges. They can shift your focus away from building your connection, right? The day-to-day grind, daily living can get you caught up, and then you turn around and figure out, hey, I when was the last time we had a long conversation? When was the last time we had sex? Those things can slip by you if we're not paying attention. It may not for one partner, but it surely can for another one if that person is inundated with daily life stressors. Unresolved conflict. If issues are not addressed, then emotional walls will go up. You know, one person may be pondering something that was said that was hurtful, and the other partner is wondering why they don't want to be intimate. Well, just yesterday, you said some really harmful things, or maybe it was last week, but I still remember them and I'm still hurt by them. And right now, I don't want to be, um, really intimate with you. In these cases, someone is shutting down or what we call stonewalling, or being passive aggressive. Then there's routine and complacency. You just stop doing the small things that made us feel so close in the beginning, right? And when that happens, the routine and the complacency is when someone or each partners start taking each other for granted. And when we are in these relationships, that is so easy to do. So it's a mindful act to build intimacy. Also, there's a fear of vulnerability, right? So we avoid opening up because we fear rejection or judgment. If a person isn't feeling safe with you, they're not going to open up because they don't want to be ridiculed. If they say, I want to go to the moon, and then you start saying to them, you must be crazy. You know, daggone well, you cannot go to the moon. And then you start listing all the reasons why they can't get to the moon without even trying to say, let's just figure, let's see what we can figure out. But the idea is that your partner should be able to feel open, to feel vulnerable to you. One important thing to remember is, like I said before, intimacy is intentional. Mindfulness, you have to think about it sometimes. It doesn't automatically sustain itself over time. It's something that both partners must nurture. And even when you find yourself, slipping, or you know what, we haven't done anything together in a long time. Let's just go for a walk in the park. It doesn't have to always be something expensive or a whole lot of, you know, time. If you only have 10 minutes in the morning, take it. It will help you feel reconnected. Otherwise, this distance starts happening. Before you know it, you don't even know your partner anymore. So, here's how to create deeper intimacy. As I said, you want to start with emotional safety. Without the emotional safety, intimacy cannot thrive. Practice active listening. Really hear your partner without planning your response. And it's active listening means checking in, asking the person, did I hear that right? Ask questions, be inquisitive about what they're talking to you about. It'll help you stay focused and present in the conversation. Then you want to validate your partner's feelings. Like, wow, I understand why you feel that way, right? Or you really have a valid point. But this is what I was thinking, after I've heard everything you said. If you need to take responsibility for something that you said or did, then do that. But make sure that you hear the other person out completely first. Then you want to share, number two, share small vulnerabilities every day. So intimacy grows when we reveal bits of ourselves consistently. An example, instead of saying my day was fine, try my day was stressful and I felt like I couldn't even catch my breath. Or it could be, oh my God, I had the best day. This person gave me some kudos, and oh my gosh, my partner at work, they received some kudos as well. We got a raise, or we're going to be doing this exciting project. Elaborate instead of just saying my day was fine. How was yours? Bring some excitement. Or if there is none, hey, my day was the same old same. Well, what about yours? What happened with you today? Anything new, anything exciting happen? Right? So then there's reviving physical affection. Don't just touch a partner when you want sex, because after a while, that is going to be a turnoff. You want to start with small touches throughout the day, holding hands, a gentle little back rub, a kiss on the cheek, a massage, or maybe just a hug, right? More than 2 seconds. Just give a heartfelt, full embrace. Sometimes not sometimes, I find myself telling my clients, for the couples to start practicing naked cuddling, where you just take all of your clothes off, you get in bed, and you just cuddle, spooning, with no expectations of anything happening after that. But do that for at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes if you can hold out. And I oftentimes tell them, yeah, after the 10 or 15 minutes, your homework is done. Anything happens after that, it's none of my business. So, and they, the husbands especially come back. You know what? I really enjoyed that naked cuddling. I bet you did, sir. So it's definitely a way that you can regulate your heartbeat. You can hear and feel each other's heartbeat. You can regulate your stress, especially if you've had a stressful day, right? Just to feel that warm embrace, allowing you to feel safe. It's a great way to bring your pressure down, right? Reduce your stress for both partners. And that's one of the reasons why I really love to recommend that, especially for people who have stressful jobs, and they have a lot going on with the kids and everything. It's just so good to just reconnect in that way. You don't even have to say anything, just feel each other's presence. That's you guys' it's homework for those who have a partner. Now, you want to engage in new experiences together. Try something that you've never done before. Take a class, cook a new recipe, plan a spontaneous day trip. I know one time me and my husband went axe throwing, and we actually had a really good time. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but she said come, so here I am. We actually went to the Soul Circus. We had never done that before. So that was fun. Just trying different things, building memories together. Novelty can really stimulate excitement, right? Building these memories, something that you can laugh about later on. Um, this is all part of the joys of being in a relationship. You can also ask deeper questions instead of um something, how is your day? That's good sometimes. But when you're just really sitting together, spending time, maybe over dinner, or maybe you're sitting in the park or something like that, what's something you learned about yourself this week? Or when do you feel most loved by me? Right? Or ask your partner, how do you show love? I'll sometimes have my clients go and do the love language quiz so that they know how the other person feels and experiences love. You may be giving your partner gift after gift after gift, and all they want you to do is sit on the couch. They don't care about gifts at all. Or they may just want you to say, baby, you're so beautiful. Baby, you look so good in that outfit. Just complimenting them. Words of affirmation may be more important to them than receiving or giving gifts. So, getting in tune with your partner's love language. Let's see. Alignment on shared values. Discuss learn long-term dreams, goals, what your spiritual beliefs are, particularly if you feel like your beliefs are evolving, and what gives your life meaning, right? How are you feeling purposeful? Or do you need to move into purpose? Intimacy will deepen when you know you're building toward the same vision, you know, and you may have individual goals and visions, but as you're walking alongside each other, and just having that partner walking aside you is a reassurance, right? That you're not alone in your pursuit of purpose, of happiness, of fulfillment. So how do we overcome some of these common barriers, right? These intimacy barriers. Even with good intentions, building intimacy can hit roadblocks. And so here's how you handle them. If your partner isn't as open as you are, start small. Share a little about yourself first, and then trust often grows in response to vulnerability. If past hurts are in the way, address them honestly. Perhaps you may need a therapist like myself or whoever is in your local area. You can have a trusted friend, or if you have a pastor or someone like that, you may can go to them together. But don't pretend that it's fine when it's not. Avoid pretending, you know. Don't let your partner have this idea that everything is fine, or that you're over something that you're not. You have to be honest and open about where you are in the relationship so that you're not putting out there false expectations or false ideas about where you are in the relationship. One partner saying, "Oh, we're great," and the other partner is saying, "Oh, this relationship sucks." Well, there's a disconnect somewhere, and we need to find out where it is. And the only way to do that is by sitting down and having a conversation. It may be hard, but we can do hard things and we can push through it if both parties are willing and open to hear the other person and understand. Try to understand. Intimacy is not a race. This is an ongoing, lifelong process, particularly if you're in a marriage and you are in it for the long haul. It's a constant building blocks, right? So here's the truth that you may not even expect, and that is your ability to deeply connect with someone else depends on how connected you are to yourself. See, it all starts with you. Self-care is an intimacy looks like knowing your own needs and communicating them clearly. Taking care of your mental and physical health so that you can show up fully in the relationship. And then having hobbies and interests that are outside of the relationship because individuality actually fuels attraction, right? You become more interesting to your partner when you have things to share with them, when you're taking care of yourself, when you're fulfilled individually, your capacity for intimacy really expands, right? Because now you've loved on yourself, you've given yourself the things that you need to be healthy and to be whole. And we're always going to be constantly working on ourselves, right? I call us whips, works in progress. We're always being worked on, worked through, you know. Now, just take a moment to think about how can you have personal intimacy through your self-care? What is it that you need to do for yourself before you can fully show up for someone else? Sometimes that means I need to make sure I eat. I need to make sure that I'm drinking water. I need to make sure that I'm exercising. I need to make sure that I'm taking time out for, meditation, or maybe it's listening to music. What is fueling your soul, your spirit to make you feel whole or to bring you those little joys, daily joys? Maybe you like reading. Take time out, 15, 20 minutes a day to really connect with yourself so that you can connect with your partner. So, as we close out, for your homework, I always give my clients homework. But anyway, for you guys' homework for the next week, I want you guys to think about at least one type of intimacy: emotional, physical, intellectual, experiential, and or spiritual, and intentionally nurture one of those with your partner. Maybe you can have your partner listen to this episode so that they can also be aware and knowledgeable about the different aspects of intimacy. And then at the end of the week, check in with yourself, see how you feel, and talk about how you intentionally um, was able to build the intimacy. In just a week's time, you will be surprised at how the little things can go a long way. Because remember, intimacy is not about being seen. Intimacy is about being seen, heard, and valued, and making space for your partner to feel the same. It's not just about what happens in the bedroom. It starts way before you get there, right? So I do want to thank you. With that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember that we're available on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, anywhere that you stream. And my YouTube page, Purple Rain Counseling. You can see this episode on YouTube. Also, I want to thank any and all of my new listeners and subscribers. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until the next time, remember that self-care is not an option, it's a necessity. And when you learn to love yourself deeply, you can create the space to love others deeply too. Or as I like to say, when you learn to love yourself, it really doesn't matter who doesn't. So take care for now. Until the next time.